I see the iconda solution logo in the bottom, link to the Creative Commons. So this is a perfect image. So I think this is great. What I really like, Andy, is during the task management podcast that we had together, you were able to bring this task management canvas by Creative Commons and showcase how people can take their sources of tasks and convert them into manageable, trackable systems. And this example that you have here, I think really speaks profoundly to that. So I'm hoping that you can actually do a deep dive and talk about this.
Sure thing. So when you start, the only thing you see is the kind of dark blue symbols. Down the left, you've got all the incoming, all of your projects, your emails, everything that creates things to do for you. And on the right, you've got the systems that you use to deal with it. And everybody uses some kind of combination of spreadsheets and calendars and folders and that kind of thing. And the example, how you do it, and it's kind of loosely based on my complicated life, but not completely. So, because the idea of the canvas is it's helping you to take a step back, understand what you're doing and where most of your time goes, and therefore help you to see things a bit more clearly and make adjustments. Mm-hmm. Everybody's system's different, and everybody's system evolves as well. So it's the kind of thing you could do once every 6 months, once every year or so on, just to tweak things and make sure that what you were doing a year ago, say, is still the best way of doing things today. You know, when you ask people to do things, it doesn't get done on time. You know, it's kind of different to your own viewpoints. I think you've struck on something quite interesting there. I can think of people in those two categories. Yeah. The idea is that you can use it to step back and decide what you do. You know, look at your own personal strategy for managing tasks, where you are at the moment and where you want to be. And so you're in the middle of this thing, if you see what I mean. There's the little guy in the middle. And the idea is the stuff on the left is all your intake. Yeah, it's everything coming in. So it comes in different forms. The top star represents projects that, you know, generate stuff to do. Then you get things that come in through email and messaging and so on. That's the envelope represents that. You've got meetings you go to and you come out burdened with, you know, tons of actions. So that's the little network symbol. You have your own ideas. Hopefully you get enough private time to think of stuff you want to do, you know, so there's that. And there's perhaps some miscellaneous stuff that I forgot. So the idea, first of all, with this canvas is you take a moment to think about all the sources of stuff. Now I say stuff because it's stuff. It's not very well formed. And so the thing you have to do in the middle here is, so the stuff is represented by this kind of ugly blob to the guy's left, and you've got to cope with all that intake and transform it into tasks. And this is where task management starts. So it's what Zara was saying, you know, you get stuff can be tiny little things, but it can be big things. And if it's a big thing, you break it down into subtasks. You use the first move or whatever. And so you're there in the middle of all this thing. And once you've hopefully broken things down into actionable tasks, then on the right, you've got all the systems you use to do something with it. So the little frozen thing at the top is things you just put on hold because they're important, but they're not urgent. And I just can't do them now. So you put them on hold somewhere, big folder, whatever it is. Next one down is you've got however you prioritize things. So is it a spreadsheet? Is it Evernote? What is it? It's the kind of table that Zana was showing us. Everybody's got their own thing, and everybody's own thing evolves over time as well. So there's that, then there's your calendar. And then the cogs represent, well, you've got things that are going on. So you've probably got trackers of some sort. And these can take many different forms. They can be bug trackers, they can be progress trackers, Gantt charts, all that kind of stuff. And of course, then there's the famous, it ain't urgent, it ain't important. So it goes down to the bin in the bottom right. Okay. So again, the idea is take a step back, take an hour out and really think about it. Go to the cafe, print the sheet. I'm going to put it on Creative Commons so everybody can have it. And think it through, and it's surprising what can pop out. You probably find you're happy with most of the things on the right because you've spent time on those and they probably suit you at the moment. But there's one or two things you could perhaps improve. The things on the left, you probably do really want to think about, do I really want to have all this stuff coming in? Perhaps I'll unsubscribe to a number of lists. Perhaps I won't go to certain meetings, and so on. It really is a way of stepping back. And after a call like this, where perhaps you've got one or two ideas you could use, see how they'll fit into your own canvas by working with this. There you go. So there you go. Any thoughts from anyone? I know.
I find this fascinating, Andy, because you took something that perhaps is enigmatic and you're able to make it tangible with this canvas. And I think you have links to where this canvas comes from, use it. But it's just remarkable how you can take something that, we all struggle with and we do our best. But now you're adding this tool in between that can actually see and help you really. I think the way you looked at it was, what was the word you used before the meeting started? Visualize this, use this.
Visualize it, yeah. And then one of the major sources for this was a very good book by David Allen. David Allen wrote a book called Getting Things Done, and he's done one or two good YouTubes as well that you can look at. And this concept of, you get a lot of stuff coming in, but really you need to break it down into actionable tasks. That's one of the things that he was very strong on and pointed out. And it's all very true. The key thing is to work it through for yourself, and perhaps to go back to it every 6 months or every year and see how it's working for you at the moment. You can't be refining your systems every day. That wouldn't work. Just do it, regularly, which means every few quarters or whatever, so that you keep on top of your game.
That makes sense. It's an optimized way of using the tool. Overusing is, adding inefficiencies, and not using it at all is just doing things blind and just doing it inefficiently too.
Yes,
so
that's
seems
right.
Like quarterly or every 6 months is that optimized cadence of revisiting this. It just makes sense. Amin Saha?
Yeah, I would like to see like an example of how this has helped someone or how it's helped you to visualize and then narrow down your tasks.
Well, I use it a lot in coaching, and what I find is that people very often, when they're trying to identify what the intake, they start saying things like, I go to these weekly meetings. Do I really need to go to them weekly? And you can work through that. Say, perhaps I'm going to drop one or two, and then you can start to see that some of the habits have become rigidity. Okay, like going to meetings every single week just because you're meant to, and that you could drop a few. You can. The top style is project. So project is anything that generates quite a few tasks, and you can go into different projects and realize that some of them are beyond their sell-by date. You don't need them anymore. So it's really a way of almost consulting with yourself and asking yourself hard questions about how often. The question mark and the clock at the top is how often do I read my email, for example. How often do I go to meetings? Because time is important, and therefore, and when you think about it and you try and put a number there, you think, that's too often, or that's not enough, and you can change it. So it's a way of, it imposes a structure, and that structure makes you think about things perhaps in a way you haven't done before, and then you come up with new solutions.
So we have folks who think that this, they could use it occasionally, work sometimes, but they see it solving 60 to 70% of their issues. Again, I'm very happy to see that this is something that for the most part, people can leverage. And I've noticed most folks, when they see a tool, once they start using it and benefiting from it, the scores do go up. So I highly encourage people to try out and find, like Zaha and Andy said, try and find out what tool would work for you and give this a try. And it's not just once, it's not just twice, you've got to try it a few times to really start seeing the benefit of it. We are available on LinkedIn and many other platforms to get in touch with us and ask your questions even after the session and see if this can
Absolutely.